So in this segment, we're going to be talking about the food industry in Northern Ireland warns that the protocol is vital to trade, and it shows you that they're desperate to hold on to the protocol regardless of any perceived issues, purely because it helps them. They have a massive market. People in Northern Ireland have a huge market to export into compared to Great Britain, which does not have anywhere near as big a market to export into. So representatives of the Northern Ireland food industry have warned the UK government that scrapping the protocol could damage their businesses, and it will do, especially in the dairy industry. I didn't realise, but the dairy industry has worked really hard to, I think, move their supply chains out of Great Britain and get a lot more of their stuff processed within the Republic of Ireland, purely because they don't have to deal with as many issues. Apparently, because the milk can be going back and forth between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, and if they did that between GB and NI, they'd face all sorts of problems. On Monday, the government will begin the process of making radical changes to the protocol, which we've talked about already. Businesses which import Great Britain's goods into Northern Ireland have experienced difficulties with the protocol as the checks and controls add cost and complexity. Again, we've talked about that. The October proposals will deal with some of that and really help out businesses in Northern Ireland. Food and horticulture exporters have faced the greatest problems as those goods face most onerous checks, SPS and all of those kind of stuff, and vet certificates, etc. However, exporters, including food exporters, have benefited because, unlike other parts of the UK, they have maintained frictionless access to the EU market. So effectively, food exporters in Northern Ireland have benefited massively from the protocol because they have access to the EU single market and we don't. They can trade effortlessly with people in the Republic of Ireland and the Netherlands, Germany, name an EU country. Northern Ireland can export to them no problem, compared to companies in GB which can't do that. So setting up a subsidiary or some sort of hub in Northern Ireland makes a lot of sense to businesses. The only problem is the instability around it because of the DUP and the Tories. Michael Bell, the executive of the Northern Ireland Food and Drink Association, NIFTA, that's a great acronym, said the protocol has been vital to ensuring continuity in trading goods across the island of Ireland and between Northern Ireland and Great Britain, because let's not forget, businesses in Northern Ireland can export this way to Great Britain and south towards the Republic of Ireland, no problem. For a majority of our members, the protocol is working. For a minority, there have been issues, he said, and the simple fact is the EU are working to resolve some of those issues for that minority. They have been speaking to more businesses and people in Northern Ireland, and I hope they continue to do that to really kind of fine-tune the protocol, despite what the British government are doing. Some of these have been addressed to an extent by the various grace periods, which again the EU threatened to take legal action over but actually didn't in the end, and NIFTA has been working hard with the government to highlight areas where improvement can be made and processes streamlined. The problem is the government aren't going to listen to you. I would say you're better off talking to the EU Commission if possible. Simply scrapping the protocol would only set us back, so it's very clear that certain businesses in Northern Ireland, perhaps even the majority of businesses in Northern Ireland, want to keep the protocol in place. Him saying, we must not forget that Brexit itself presented Northern Ireland food and drink companies with major challenges, most of which have been resolved by the protocol whilst offering new opportunities, the opportunities to become a bigger manufacturing hub compared to Great Britain. That was echoed by the Northern Ireland Meat Exporters Association, NIMEA, who said the protocol, along with the UK-EU Trade and Cooperation Agreement, was providing an effective workable platform for trade between these islands and beyond. Conall Donnelly, chief executive of NIMEA, said his members annually import about £200 million of beef from Great Britain for further processing in Northern Ireland. And obviously, if that beef has a chance of it going into the Republic of Ireland or exported into other parts of the EU single market, it's going to face checks, and that's a big problem. These imports are now subject to checks and controls, but Mr. Donnelly said the industry had coped with that. And the thing is, it's not about whether these goods stay in Northern Ireland, it's about goods at risk of moving into the EU single market. That's why these goods are facing checks. He said, our members have adapted well to these checks, and once they are complete, our members benefit from unfettered trade back to GB and onwards to the EU. So say if they become a processing hub for ready meals, for example, right, they buy in the beef from Great Britain, or the ground beef, or however they're doing it, and they process it within Northern Ireland, and they sell it on back to Great Britain or into the single market with no problems, because the beef has already been checked in the Irish Sea, so long as it doesn't go back again from GB to NI. To facilitate trade, it is essential that both the UK and EU, commit to agreed solutions rather than either side taking unilateral action, which risks retaliation from the other side, potentially damaging trading relations in the process and jeopardising jobs. A lot of businesses in Northern Ireland, are figuring out the protocol and realising what they can and can't do. The only business struggling really, that's extremely public with this stuff, is Marks and Spencers. They're the only ones that I see publicly howling all the time. It might be because they're getting the most press attention, I don't know, but I think a lot of the other bigger businesses will hopefully have figured their supply chains out by now. Last week, Northern Ireland Dairy Council also warned the government about the possible impacts of taking unilateral action on the dairy industry. Food processors are understood to be concerned about the new regulatory regime. Essentially, businesses in Northern Ireland can either use EU regulations or UK regulations, which is obviously a huge problem, which causes a lot of uncertainty for businesses, and means that effectively that in itself would kill the protocol, because how would the EU know what manufacturing processes these businesses in Northern Ireland are using? We've got some more bits here. Some critics of the protocol, including the Iceman, have poured scorn on the idea that an all-island economy, which the protocol protects. I mean, it does though, because regardless of how much Frost likes it or not, Northern Ireland is very reliant on the Republic of Ireland for trade. That's a fact. However, for the food industry, particularly the dairy industry, the reality is a very high degree of cross-border integration. Milk farmed in Northern Ireland is often processed in the Republic of Ireland, and that's why they turn it in all the good stuff that we love, like butter and cheese, for example. All the stuff we love that is ultimately bad for you in large quantities. Products can move back and forth across the frontier several times in their processing journey. It's not surprising that the food sector has found its voice, because, before they would trust that, they had connections with ministers who they hoped would do the right thing. And the simple fact is they don't. So I think companies have realised, unless we speak out, no one's going to bother listening to us. I think that's one of the reasons why more and more companies are speaking out against the government. Dairy Council Chief Mike Johnston said the hypothetical example that this is a good one, by the way. This is a good example he gives, that if wheat produced using pesticides banned by the EU was used as animal feed on Northern Ireland dairy farms because they'd be allowed to under a dual regulatory regime, then the milk produced would not be permitted to cross the border. And then how would the EU know if the Northern Ireland farms are using those banned pesticides, and how would they stop the milk going from Northern Ireland to the Republic of Ireland? There would have to be a hard border. They wouldn't have a choice at that point. It would have to protect the single market. And obviously, as someone else pointed out to me a while ago, the UK would have to enforce a hard border as well, because, for certain trade deals, it will only be for goods made in Great Britain, not, goods made in the EU to be exported to whatever third country the UK has a trading deal with. But anyways, I found this quite interesting that, businesses, at least, food industries, food businesses are very adamant that, the protocol needs to stay and that it's vital for their trade. Because obviously with SPS checks, SPS and customs are really difficult. Vet certificates are expensive as well. So it's very difficult for companies to really carry on, if that makes sense, especially without the protocol. Northern Ireland's economy is doing quite well compared to the rest of Great Britain outside of London, and you can tell why that is. It's the protocol. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.